This is BBC London. I'm Assad Ahmed. This is what's on the programme tonight. Last seen on the London Underground, police released new images of Abdul Shakur Azadi, wanted over the corrosive substance attack in Clapham.
We're able to follow him and know that he got on a train at 9 p.m, a Victoria Line tube heading south.
We'll have more details about that journey, also on the programme. Hundreds of motorists are fined for sticking to the speed limit. The organisation responsible for the road is raking in the money. The South London boxers preparing to face each other in a North London bout this weekend. And
the good thing about being a magician, you see, is we can cover up the chair like this, put the arrow upside down, the chair turns upside down. And we've got a special offer, buy one, get one free. How's that for reproduction furniture?
ordinary chairs, and they could be yours after a secret society decides to get new ones. Good evening. Nearly 48 hours after a corrosive substance was thrown on a mother and her two young daughters in Clapham, the hunt is still on for their suspect. The Metropolitan Police have a name, a timeline for the suspect's last known movements, and CCTV images of the person they want. But as yet, nothing. Abdul Shakur Azadi is eluding police, although confidence remains high that the 35-year-old will be tracked down. With details of Azadi's movements is Matt Graveling, who's at King's Cross Station for us this evening. Matt.
Well, Assad, still nobody in custody following that horrific attack on Wednesday evening in South London. A 31-year-old mother, her two daughters, just 8 and 3 years old, sent to hospital, which is where we believe they are now. But this afternoon we did get some more information from the Metropolitan Police about the movements both before and after that attack of the suspect, Abdul Shakur Azadi.
We know that Azadi left Newcastle in the very, very early hours of Wednesday morning, and he travelled down south to London. At around about 6:30 a.m, he was in the Tooting area. There was a further sighting of his vehicle at about 4:30 p.m. in Croydon, and at about 7 p.m. he was in the Streatham area. As you know, the awful attack took place at 7:25 in the evening in Clapham, and at 33 minutes past 7 he boards a train at Clapham South Tube.
Azadi then came here to King Cross St Pancras, and he took a short walk away to my left-hand side, and he visited a Tesco Express newsagent. There, we were told by police, he purchased a bottle of water. You can see now in this picture he has significant injuries to the right-hand side of his face. Now, from there he returned back to King's Cross and he went underground, and you can see in this newly released picture the last sighting of Azadi that was sent to us by police, where he went on the Victoria Line and went southbound. So what more do we know? Well, we know he's 35 years old. He is from Newcastle. In 2016, he came to England from Afghanistan on a lorry. 2 years later, he was convicted of sexual offences. Now, he tried unsuccessfully twice to claim asylum. He did, however, get a successful claim on his third attempt. So how can all this information help police catch him? Well, a little bit earlier, I got the thoughts of the former Chief Superintendent, Dal Babu.
You'd be looking at the connections in Newcastle, it's very clear. There's a significant Afghanistani community in, for example, Harrow, so you'd be looking there. You'd be looking at the transport hubs, and as you pointed out, it's not just in the UK. You could jump onto a train, get into France and beyond that. So the police would have to be looking at all of those.
We know that this incident has seen many police forces come together. Does that speed up proceedings, or does that have the potential to slow down proceedings?
I think initially it's about getting the forces together. So, joint intel cell, a joint understanding of what people will be doing. There'll be one person in charge, Gold, and they will then define what's happening across the investigation. So in the short term, it's going to be a little bit clunky, but once that is in place, it's a lot easier for somebody to say to Northumbria, can you please go and check this particular address? We've had information, or BTB, can you check this particular train? So all of that information can be coordinated and passed out to individual forces to act on.
We've seen cuts to the police over the last decade. Does that make getting the resources to solve these things quickly even harder now?
Yeah, the cutbacks in policing have been quite significant. We've lost 18,500 cuts in police support staff, and some of those would have been intelligence officers. Now those haven't been replaced, and they would be key to an investigation like this. So the intelligence officers would be working incredibly hard. So that skill deficit has an impact in the police being able to solve crimes.
We've also been told that 5 search warrants have now been executed around the country. 3 of those were in Newcastle, 2 of them were in East London. Now, police want to stress if anyone sees Ezedi not to approach him, but instead to call 999. Now, Assad, I want to leave you with a glimmer of good news, and that's while the Metropolitan Police told us that the 31-year-old mother is still in a very poorly condition in hospital. Her 2 daughters, aged 8 and 3, their injuries are not as serious as first thought. Assad.
Well, that is some good news, Matt Graveling. Thank you very much for that from King's Cross. Well, as the mother and her 2 children injured in Clapham do remain in hospital, the attack has raised questions around a rise in corrosive substance attacks, particularly against women. According to one charity, over the past year, attacks have increased, with female victims exceeding the number of male victims for the first time. Here's Layla Hayes.
2 weeks ago, Spencer Geimer was the victim of a chemical attack. He's now been told he may be permanently blind in his left eye. He was sitting in his car when a motorcyclist sprayed ammonia through his driver window.
To be honest, I honestly felt like I was going to die. I thought that it was the end of my life. You know, I ingested the solution, I breathed it in, my mouth instantly started blistering. And the inside of my mouth started to fall out. I mean, I had like chunks of skin coming out of my mouth. For me, the incident was, you know, so traumatic.
Do they look swollen?
That one's, well, you know, earlier one was more swollen than the other.
Yeah.
Spencer now needs regular hospital appointments to treat his injuries, something that is common for victims.
Often such attacks usually affect the face and the hands primarily because they're the most exposed, and often when someone is attacked, someone's intending to damage the face and hands. Often this means that the eyes are affected and the skin of the face. These injuries take quite a lot of time to address, both in terms of the surgery, but the often devastating psychological impact can take years to resolve.
In 2019, tougher laws were introduced to make it an offence to have a corrosive substance in a public place. But this charity says in London, the number of attacks is rising, with more female victims than men.
What we're seeing in terms of the number of attacks increasing does suggest there may be issues around the enforcement of the legislation. So there are big questions to be asked about how are these perpetrators accessing very dangerous corrosives.
Spencer has this message for others.
Don't open the window. Not knowing if I'm going to be blind for the rest of my life, if I'm going to be able to watch my son develop and turn into a man and win the egg and spoon race. Do you know what I mean? There was so much fear, and I don't want this to happen to other people.
These types of attacks are still rare, but for the victims, the effects are utterly devastating. Layla Hayes, BBC London.
And we're updating our website and social media platforms with the very latest on that story as things develop. We know there's been a lot of interest in it, so do go to bbc.co.uk/London, or you can take a look at the BBC News app. Now you're watching BBC London. Here's a look at what's still to come on the programme.
Here in North London, we're getting ready for a South London showdown as Lewisham's Dan Aziz prepares to take on Croydon's Josh Boazzi at Wembley Arena.
Hundreds of motorists who've been caught speeding are planning to take action against Transport for London. It's because when drivers saw a 50-mile-an-hour speed limit sign and stuck to it, they'd actually be breaking the law. The limit was 40 miles an hour. Well, the sign wasn't a hoax, but TfL say it was put up by an unauthorised third party. Yet drivers are still getting fines and points on their licence. Peter Whittlesey has this report.
The A20 is one of the busiest trunk roads in the southeast, taking traffic from London into Kent. So imagine the impact of reducing the speed limit from 70 miles an hour to 40 miles an hour in one section. But crucially, a wrong 50 mile an hour sign was left up. You've guessed it, it's left hundreds of motorists facing fines and points on their licences.
I'm aware of my 3 points which I've got. I know I've been on there 2 further occasions since, before I was aware of the speed change. So I'm waiting for the next fine and the next points to come through. So it's just, you say, it's a waiting game, and you just think, you feel powerless to do anything.
The only power they had was to form a social media group that's now backed by a solicitor who thinks the rogue 50 mile an hour sign means all the fines should be dropped.
I'm aware of about 600 people that have been caught, many of them 5, 6, 7 times. So we're talking a few thousand speeding offences.
So this is the problem. I'm on what looks like a motorway, and on the other carriageway, the traffic's going really quickly, 60 or 70 miles an hour. But here, I'm only allowed to do 40 miles an hour, and it feels really slow.
Transport for London, who are responsible for this stretch of the A20, said safety is its #1 priority. A temporary 40 mile an hour speed limit was introduced because of ongoing surface water flooding. But motorists facing multiple fines say such a major change in speed limit should have been well publicised.
I am an aware driver. I think it's just because I've been driving that stretch of road almost daily for the last goodness knows how long, and I think it just needs to make it really clear. I just feel like I've been I feel like it's been a bit of a trap, really. And I appreciate what people are saying, but I think considering there are so many other drivers who have been caught out, I think something needs to change.
The only change they'll accept is their fines being ripped up, or they're planning a mass legal action.
Well, let's take a look at some other local news making the headlines today. Police investigating the alleged escape from Wandsworth Prison of former soldier Daniel Khalif have arrested a second person. It's on suspicion of assisting an offender. The 25-year-old woman from East London has been released on bail. A man was arrested last month. Passengers are being warned to check before they travel this weekend because of limited rail services. Members of the ASLEF union walked out in a row over pay on Friday. There are no C2C services, 1 train per hour on Greater Anglia mainline services between London and Norwich, and LNER services departing from London will also be affected. Greta Thunberg and 4 co-defendants have been found not guilty of breaking the law when they refused to follow police instructions to move on during a climate protest in October. In fact, the judge condemned police for trying to impose unlawful conditions on protesters and producing no evidence of any wrongdoing. And plans for a £25 million super yacht that was set to host late-night events on the River Thames have been scrapped. Entertainment firm Smart Group said the yacht would be leaving London and returning to EU waters. A local councillor called the decision a huge victory for Thameside residents. Now, a library has opened in the area of the former sprawling Aylesbury estate near Elephantton Castle. It honours someone you may never have heard of before. It's called the Una Marson Library, after a poet, playwright and the BBC's first black radio producer in the 1930s. Writing a book about Miss Marson is broadcaster June Sapong, who joins me now. What a pleasure it is to have you here, June.
Thank you.
Lovely to see you. Una Marson was born in Jamaica. She died nearly 60 years ago in London, and now there's a library opened in her name.
Well, she died in Jamaica, actually.
She died in Jamaica,
yeah.
and now there's a library opened for her in London.
Yes.
What's the significance of it?
Well, I think the significance of it is just how important Una's contribution to the British broadcasting industry is. She was the first black producer, as you say, on the BBC, but she was also the first black woman to have her own show. And during the Second World War was such a popular voice in this country. And her show was called Calling the West Indies. And it basically featured her interviewing prominent people from what at the time was the colonies. And she was a contemporary of George Orwell. People forget George Orwell actually worked at the BBC. Yeah. And this woman who had such an extraordinary life has more or less been written out of history. So it's incredible that the library has been opened and named after her. I was at the launch, which was amazing. And I'm super excited to be writing her biography.
And so what she did back then was groundbreaking, not just because she was a woman, but a black woman in the 1930s doing what she did.
Pre-Windrush.
Yeah.
I mean, this is at a time where she would have been walking down the street and there would have been no other faces that looked like hers. And yeah, what a woman.
And she did write about it, a fabulous poem she wrote, or a very hard-hitting poem, Little Brown Girl, in which she talks about being in London in the 1930s. It says, "Don't you think they wonder why a little brown girl should roam about their city, their white city? You speak good English, little brown girl. How is it you speak English as though it belonged to you?" So she faced discrimination.
Yeah, I mean, such harsh discrimination, being spat out on the street, discrimination professionally as well. I mean, when she first moved from Jamaica, it took her years to find work, but she was determined. And as you say, she was also a playwright. So she managed to get her play staged in the West End. Can you imagine? And we think that the play is actually autobiographical. So yeah, I mean, what a woman.
And also another thing that I was interested to read about her was that she worked for the BBC, a massive organisation, which of course would have had some racist people in it.
Yes.
The organisation today will have some racist people in it. It's the nature of the organisation. But she fought that, didn't she? She fought discrimination in the civil rights movement back in the day.
She did, and she was part of also the Pan-Africanist movement. So a lot of revolutionaries that went back to seek independence for their countries, she worked alongside. She worked alongside people like Kwame Nkrumah. She was mentored by Harold Moody. So all of these quote-unquote great men, Una was the force behind them.
Just a very quick question for you, as we're running out of time, but I really want to ask this. June, you are a successful broadcaster, as are many other women. Would you have done what you've done if it wasn't for this lady?
No way. Without, I say, without Una, there would be no Floella, there'd be no Moira, and there certainly would be no me.
Really?
Yeah,
that much?
It started with her.
And I know your book comes out later this year in October. We really look forward to that. June Sapong, what a pleasure it is to have you here in the studio. Many thanks. Now, that was broadcaster June Sapong on BBC London. More in a moment, but first a look at what's coming up on Sunday.
Hi, coming up on this week's Politics London, with Finchley and Golders Green MP Mike Freer announcing he's standing down after death threats, abuse and narrow escapes. Is life as an MP becoming simply too dangerous? Do join me this Sunday at 10 on BBC One. See you then.
Now, one of the great things about our series when we visit every London borough to find people who make a difference to those around them is the extraordinary range of people we find doing extraordinary things, things that wouldn't otherwise make the headlines. Well, today we're in Hillingdon, and this proves my point.
Hi, I'm Aaliyah Jones, the founder of Halo Children's Foundation. Sadly, in 2011, my partner died of a misdiagnosed brain tumour, and at the time I had a 3-week-old and a 2-year-old. As they grew to ask where their daddy was, I didn't quite know what to say, so I decided to look for support for them, and that kind of grew to sharing support with other families. The Halo Play Cafe is a project to fundraise and offer a hub for families to access support when they need it. Counselling support, whether that be one-to-one or group counselling. We provide expressive art and play sessions, a bereavement book library, memory boxes, in-school support. We also fund trips. The difference that Halo Play Cafe makes on families is to offer a space where children and families can come out of the home, access support and feel like they're not alone going through their own grief and loss journey. The services that we provide make a huge difference on children's lives, and the adults in particular find that by bringing their children to support services, they are giving them the best opportunities they can to express their loss. It can be a lonely place when you're experiencing, loss of someone that meant so much to you. To have an environment where you feel safe amongst other people that just get it, that may have experienced something similar to you, it does really help. Halo offers one of the only bereavement services in the area. Just to know that you are helping somebody else on their journey really makes a difference to me.
Our great thanks to Aaliyah for welcoming us to the Halo Children's Foundation in Hillingdon. Now on to boxing and to two good friends from South London who are going head-to-head in the ring at Wembley Arena tomorrow. Now, the usual play acting of how much contenders hate each other doesn't really apply in this case. So Chris Legg wanted to find out more.
They're two of the world's top light heavyweights and they're both from the same neck of the woods. When they meet in a world title eliminator at Wembley Arena tomorrow, Joshua Buatsi will be flying the flag for Croydon and Dan Aziz for Lewisham.
Lewisham's just a vibe, man, I wouldn't want to be brought up in anywhere else than Lewisham. We've got all the stars there, man. There's something in the water that we're drinking. There's something that happens to people that are from Croydon.
These guys go back a long way, sparring partners for many years, and they're actually still good friends. But they've got to put that all to one side when they step into the ring tomorrow night for the sake of their own title aspirations.
As you can see, you lot are already out here, so the friendship's long out of the window, so it's not hard, man. I want to win, he wants to win, so it's normal. The winner goes on and fights for a world title. We've got the bragging rights of South London. Possibly the best in the UK. There's so much, so it really doesn't take anything to, put that to the side.
She is the reigning, defending IBO lightweight champion of the world, Sweet Caroline Dubois.
Another South Londoner on the bill is Caroline Dubois of Greenwich, who takes on Miranda Reyes of the US.
Look at this belt right here. I've already got a world title, but tomorrow it's about defending it, and then I want to collect some more.
So what's your mood right now then?
I'm excited. I'm ready. I don't know if you can. I'm ready to go.
Slough's Adam Azim became the first British Pakistani to win a European title in November and seeks to defend it against Denmark's Enoch Poulsen. We've seen how much pride your family, your friends, the whole of Slough take in your performances. What do you think it's going to mean to them if you can get another win under your belt?
Yeah, it's going to mean a lot, defending my European title against a good opponent. It's a good way to display it and hopefully bring it back to Slough.
And you've got a bronze medal around your neck because this summer, of course, you won Great Britain's first medal in Rio. It was at the Rio Olympics that Joshua Buatsi first showed his true potential. We've been following you at BBC London for a long time. We remember you winning that bronze in Rio. Just how did that help set you on your way to this professional career?
It did everything. The most important message I can give to everyone from that is remain consistent. You have to be consistent. It's taken many years to get here. It took many years to win that Olympic medal, 8 if you want to know the number, but we're still here on the journey, so remain consistent in everything.
Now time for the next step on that journey for both Joshua Buatsi and Dan Aziz. Chris Legg, BBC London.
Yeah, some great boxers there. Now to the London headquarters of one of the most mysterious societies in the world, where members have included David Copperfield, Dynamo and Paul Daniels. It's the Magic Circle in Euston, where not everything is quite what it seems, including the chairs.
Magic Circle, the house of 10,000 secrets, where magicians come from all over the world to share and discuss their ideas. I'm Lee Hathaway, the Vice President of the Magic Circle, and the time has come to make our magic chairs disappear. These chairs have been here for many years now, and they've hosted some of the most famous magical bottoms one could possibly imagine.
Get in there, Deb.
Paul Daniels, Debbie McGee, Dynamo, you name it, they've been here and they've sat in these chairs. We we've decided to upgrade these chairs. We're going to get some brand new spanking chairs in, but we don't want these to lose their magic completely. So what we're going to do is we're going to give these away to people who really like to have a bit of magical history. But of course, with any job at the Magic Circle, even something as simple as packing up our chairs isn't always as straightforward as it seems.
Being magicians at the Magic Circle, magic things happen. The good thing about being a magician, you see, is we can cover up the chair like this, put the arrow upside down, the chair turns upside down, and we've got a special offer, buy one, get one free. How's that for reproduction furniture?
It's very rare for the Magic Circle to let anyone in who's not a member, so our thanks to them for letting us film in there. Now let's have a look at the weather forecast. Here we are on the brink of the weekend. We're all wondering what it's going to be like.
Well, the first weekend in February, the big news is it's not January. And the other big news is I didn't need my coat actually today to take a stroll down the South Bank. I didn't take this picture, one of our weather watchers did, but lots of low grey cloud, as you can see. However, for most of us, it certainly cheered up into the afternoon, didn't it? So lots of sunny spells emerging here and there. The cloud never too far away. It was mild, but it was really rather blustery. And of course, that's got a lot to do with the mild feeling air because we've got that brisk southwesterly wind. Not a lot is set to change either through the weekend. So it's more of the same, basically. We keep the mild air. Temperatures will be well above the seasonal average by day and also by night. It's still going to be quite windy and there'll also be a lot of cloud around, probably more cloud than many of us have seen today. Let's take a look at why. Now, we've got various weather fronts towards the north of the UK, you can see them there, but this area of high pressure is dominating the weather across the London area. The weather fronts never really get to us at all, so we're just set to stay in that mild feeling air, really. And certainly a very mild night for early February overnight tonight. Now, we'd normally expect to be in mid-single figures really, but this time I think many of us will stay in double figures as we head into tomorrow morning. There's lots of cloud around, a little bit of a few spots of drizzle maybe, and it stays quite windy into tomorrow morning. And tomorrow, well, I have to say it's just more of the same. So we'll be keeping the layers of cloud, could produce a few spots of light drizzle, could also produce a few spells of brightness perhaps, particularly to the east of high ground, because that wind is coming in from the southwest. We might just see a little bit of rain perhaps across parts of Hertfordshire and Essex as we head through the afternoon, but it won't really get further south than that. So a largely dry picture, and it's a bit windier as we head through Sunday. Again, a lot more cloud and once more temperatures well above the seasonal average. So on Sunday, we're probably looking at 12 to 14 degrees Celsius. And if we just take a look at the outlook as we head through into the start of next week, well, it's just more of the same. It could potentially turn a little cooler, maybe on Wednesday, I said.
We'll see what happens. Elizabeth, thanks very much. Well, that's it for now. Lakshmi will be here with our late news at 10:30. I'll be back with our weekend news tomorrow afternoon at the earlier time of 3:50 on BBC One. For now, on behalf of the BBC London team, have a good evening.